Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ray, and I'm a PhD candidate at Indiana University Bloomington. Today I'm going to be discussing the roles of two kinds of hope in moral expansiveness, and in doing so, I aim to show that the type of hope matters in moral expansiveness. Let's start by talking about what moral expansiveness is. Moral expansiveness refers to the range of entities deemed worthy of moral concern and treatment by individuals. It includes human and non-human entities. This is a construct that describes how far people extend their moral boundaries, or, in other words, how far beyond the self someone is concerned about right and wrong done towards. Moral expansiveness is measured using the moral circle, as shown here, which is a single item question where respondents indicate how far beyond their immediate family that their moral concern reaches. Specifically, it ranges from 1 to 16, with 1 being all of your immediate family, 6 being all of the people you have ever met, 9 being all people on all continents, through 16, all things in existence. Previous research identifies relationships between moral expansiveness and a variety of factors, including political ideology, empathetic concern, perspective taking, moral identity, identification with all of humanity, connection with nature, endorsement of universalism values, and increased use of harm and fairness principles from the Moral Foundation questionnaire. But previous research has not explored the relationship between hope and moral expansiveness, so that's what I've explored in the present work. To begin talking about my work, I'll first need to describe two specific kinds of hope, so let's start with cognitive hope. Cognitive hope is the most prolific type of hope studied in social psychology. It comes from hope theory from Snyder, and cognitive hope describes hope as an individual-oriented, motivational, goal-directed state, including agency, the will or the willpower, and pathways, the ways or way power. Cognitive hope agency is measured with items including I've been pretty successful in life and I meet the goals I set for myself. Pathways is measured with items including I can think of many ways to get the things in life that are most important to me, and even when others get discouraged, I know I can find a way to solve the problem. Cognitive hope creates a feedback loop such that individuals who are high in hope agency view themselves as someone who is capable of meeting their goals. People who view themselves as someone who's capable of meeting their goals is more likely to develop a variety of pathways to meet those goals. And furthermore, people who develop more pathways to reach their goals are more likely to reach their goals. So, in turn, they'll continue to view themselves as having agency. Because this feedback loop is so powerful, it's no surprise that social psychological research has identified that cognitive hope predicts a wide range of individually beneficial outcomes, including self-interested goal motivation, self-interested goal attainment behavior, mental health, physical health, happiness, life satisfaction, academic goal motivation and attainment behavior, and more. But this individual-oriented hope also predicts other oriented outcomes like social support, social integration, pro-sociality, moral concern, and more. From this, we can see that there's a range of outcomes that cognitive hope is related to and predicts. And this range includes both individually oriented outcomes and other oriented outcomes. And while it's intuitive that individual-oriented hope predicts individually beneficial outcomes, it's less clear why an individual-oriented hope predicts outcomes that benefit others and that are communally beneficial. While it's not clear why cognitive hope is related to other and communally oriented benefits, a variety of thinkers, philosophers, and theologians throughout history have conceptualized hope as something that is other-oriented and that is communally beneficial. So, to give a few specific examples, Augustine of Hippo describes that hope was valuable in part because it's connected to the future well-being of the collected, beyond solely the self, through faith. You can think of the ultimate collective, eternal destiny of happiness. Immanuel Kant discusses hope as distinct from belief, as morally important, and related to pursuing the highest or ultimate good. This is something he talks about in his third question, What may I hope? But when we think of the other and communally beneficial kinds of hope described by all these people, amongst others, the items that measure cognitive hope wouldn't fully capture the kinds of hope that they discuss. But there is a kind of hope conceptualized within psychology that would capture these kinds of hope, and that's virtuous hope. The virtuous conceptualization of hope considers hope to be a virtue that promotes the common good. Virtuous hope has a cognitive component that aligns with hope theory, but it is distinct from cognitive hope because it recognizes the strategies and sacrifices needed to meet a communal or other-oriented goal. This is through its behavioral and effective motivational value. These three components of virtuous hope align it with a virtue framework, and together, virtuous hope is a purposeful vision for the common good that encourages others despite adversity. This virtuous kind of hope is related to morality. While cognitive hope from hope theory suggests that cognitive hope is neither virtuous nor moral, it's value neutral, virtuous hope is motivated by the perception that being hopeful is a moral decision with communal implications. Taking this all together, psychological research has identified relationships between hope and benefiting others, but traditional measures of hope, agency, and pathways are individually oriented, and they insufficiently explain the critical other-oriented aspects of hope expected to be at play in factors that benefit others. This would include moral expansiveness, but virtuous hope captures these critical other-oriented aspects of hope. In this work, I hypothesized that virtuous hope would predict moral expansiveness over and above cognitive hope. To explore this, I conducted a social psychological survey exploring the comparative roles of virtuous hope and cognitive hope. I conducted this survey with an online sample of US respondents from the data collection platform Prolific, and I aimed to collect data that aligned with the most recent US Census data. So, in alignment with that, I had roughly equal groups of men and women, as well as roughly equal groups of Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Through this work, I found that moral expansiveness was positively predicted by virtuous hope, and it was not predicted by either components of cognitive hope. So hope agency and hope pathways did not predict moral expansiveness. Interestingly, optimism was a significant predictor, but it was a negative predictor. Additionally, I found that men and women differed in their moral expansiveness, such that women had a more expansive moral circle than men. Furthermore, Republicans and Democrats differed in their moral expansiveness, such that Democrats had a more expansive moral circle than Republicans. Independents, interestingly, did not significantly differ from either Democrats or Republicans in their moral expansiveness. There are some notable points to raise about the moral circle as a measure of moral expansiveness, namely that it's a single item measure. It's not a very nuanced measure, so there could be individuals who, for example, may want to report a moral circle of 15 excluding the 13th ring, or individuals who include mammals in their moral circle, but not all groups of humans. And this measure of moral expansiveness would not be able to capture that. Nonetheless, this work is important because it's the first work to explore hope and moral expansiveness, and it contributes more information to the literature about the comparative rules of virtuous hope and cognitive hope. If you're curious to learn more about the moral circle, virtuous hope, or cognitive hope, feel free to reach out to me by email or check out my website or my LinkedIn.